Welcome to The Aspiring Kryptonians, a podcast for Superman fans, hosted by Superman fans and focused around all things, you guessed it, Superman. After all, we are aspiring Kryptonians. From comics, TV, film and animation, each week we discuss our thoughts on the latest releases, news and even some retrospective reviews. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Okay. Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the Aspiring Kryptonians podcast with me, Tasmin, and the rest of the team, Ashley and Evan.
Hi guys.
Evan, welcome back. I think last week I made it sound like you had died.
yeah, I listened to that. That was funny.
Sorry about that.
I'm glad I got to send in some feedback though. That was nice.
Yeah. Well, welcome back from the dead.
Thank you.
So this week we've got a fair few comics to catch up on, which include Superman versus Lobo, Batman Superman issue. I've written issue 24, but I think it's 21.
It's 21.
Yeah. And also the 2021 annual for that. Justice League Infinity 3. We're going to have a catch up on the Suicide Squad series, and we're also going to revisit the 90s crossover series, which is Superman versus Aliens. Cool. So we're going to mix it up a little bit and start with the Superman versus Aliens. So let me just...
And am I right in remembering that this is a listener suggestion?
Yes. So as part of the Patreon subscription from the House of Al, you could get to choose a topic for us to discuss in an episode, or in this case, probably episodes, because there's quite a bit to go through. So obviously depending on what it is. So we're going to start one of those this week. So Dave Owens suggested that we talk about the crossovers, so things like Superman versus Aliens, Justice League versus the Power Rangers were the ones that he suggested. So Ashley's got Superman versus Predator, which is the wrong one. But yeah, so I thought we'd go through it. It was my first read, so it's all fresh in my head. So Evan, I think you said you hadn't read it.
I have not read the first one because there's a couple ones where Superman goes up against the aliens, and I have read the second one. Okay. And I could not get my hands on the first one. So
I bet that's a weird order to read it in, the second one and then the first one, because I guess it's going to be like
I read the second one when I was a teenager, I think. So
okay. Have you read it, Ashley?
I have, yeah. I had read both, and these are just these are a joy for anyone in our age group. You know, the aliens have played such a pivotal role in pop culture. You know, the sounds of the films, the characters, the catchphrases. Oh, they give me goosebumps. So seeing the aliens cross over into other comic continuities, you know, it's brilliant.
Yeah. In terms of crossovers, I haven't really read. I think this is the first crossover that I've actually read. I know of the other crossovers, but I don't think I've actually read them. I've got some of the issues of the Justice League Power Rangers, but I haven't read them. So yeah, we've kind of set a reading challenge for each of us to read. So we'll do Superman vs. Aliens in this one, Superman vs. Aliens Series 2 next time, and then we'll do Justice League versus Power Rangers in 2 recordings time. But in terms of just crossovers, I like the idea of them because it's always interesting to see how the writer links the 2 different worlds together and how the characters sort of interact with each other. So we were talking about it just before we started recording, but in this case, I'm not a fan of Alien. I don't particularly like the films. I know they are iconic to a lot of people, but it's just not my kind of thing. So the only reason that I would have read this comic is because Superman's in it. So at least he's kind of bringing...
I'm on the same page as well. Not an Alien fan.
Yeah.
See, I'm a huge Aliens guy, and this was back in the day. This would have been top of my pull list. Seeing aliens crossing over with Superman or Batman or the Predator. Yeah, this is my bag. I love those movies. Hudson is one of my favorite cinematic characters. You know, from Aliens. So yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, I have no idea who you're talking about. The only character from Alien I know is Aliens.
Oh gosh, okay.
Yeah.
And Ripley, I know Ripley.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's a good way to bring different audiences into new things. So like people that read this comic might have been Aliens fans and not particularly like Superman, and vice versa, like in our case, Evan. And we do actually have the action figure of these. Well, I do. Superman versus Alien. I don't know where. It's somewhere here. Which was by NECA, and then you had the Batman Predator one, I think, yeah. But they were very cool. So I've got all the merchandise, just not read them. So this one's written by Dan Jurgens with art by Kevin Nolan, and there's 3 parts to the first series, and they're all sort of about, I think it's about 40 pages long, so they're quite long, but they are good. So we'll just kind of go into it as a whole. So I've written quite a lot of notes because I wrote the notes as I read it, like I normally do. So obviously you guys are probably gonna, well, Evan, you won't have a clue what I'm talking about, and Ashley, you might remember some bits that I'm talking about. So
over it.
You'll see. But I know, well, straight away, I know the series is obviously from the 90s, but as soon as you turn the page and you look at the character design, you can instantly tell, because I think Lois has like an asymmetric bob, and Clark looks really cool for, like, normally he's a bit geeky, isn't he, Clark Kent? He looks really cool in this. He's got like a big baggy black suit with, well, he's got a bit of a mullet going on, and his glasses look more like sunglasses than they do normal glasses because they've got a bit more shading. But yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up because I thought he looked really really cool, which is a bit different for Clark Kent.
Superman in the 90s is the best.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, just alone, the creative team, Dan Jurgens and who's the artist again? Kevin
Nolan.
They are the 90s. They are 90s guys. My mind straight away goes to exactly what you described. Superman looking cool, a mullet, big suits. Even the fashion, the way that the artists captured the fashion of that time. It's cool. It's like a music video.
Yeah, you got all the shoulder pads and stuff like that.
Jimmy's always looking awesome too.
Yeah.
Well, he's not in this
like
one.
He's got his life together.
Yeah, Jimmy's not in this one actually, which was a shame. So basically, Clark and Lois are sent to speak with Dr. Kimball, who is LexCorp's head of space. I've put head of space stuff because I don't actually know what she does. And she takes them to investigate this alien technology that they found. So they've managed to make contact, and Clark recognizes the language as Kryptonian. So he goes and does some investigating and finds that it's a lost alien city which looks Kryptonian to him. So he wants to go and see it for himself before LexCorp get there. So yeah, I don't know, I like how they incorporated Krypton into it, because they sort of bring on the fact that Superman's met Kryptonians before and he actually killed them, which I don't know if this is in continuity with the series. It is canon. Okay, so Superman vs. Aliens is in continuity with the titles at that time.
I don't know about that. They are referencing actual continuity things, like when he killed the Kryptonians. And I know that the big Marvel DC crossover, DC versus Avengers, is continuity in both companies. So this could be.
Yeah, well. There's a few references. I think I've put some in the notes further down, but I was just like, this seems like a really random. I guess it's a comic book, like you could do anything, but I thought it was going to be like an Elseworld story. But yeah, this with the whole killing of the Kryptonians, I was going to say I thought this was a slightly darker Superman than what we're used to, but if it is in continuity, I guess it isn't. And because the city is so far away from any sun, Superman's powers are starting to fade, which makes sense, because I was thinking, how the hell is Alien going to even stand a chance in this fight if he's got his powers? But it's a nice sort of even playing field for them from that. And then he finds that he wasn't the only person to find this city, and finds people there who are in bad shape. So he sends them to Earth while he investigates further, which he realizes later on is a huge mistake. We then see all of this is how much I know aliens. So I've put egg things and crab looking things, because I have no idea what they're called, but you know exactly what I mean. That's it.
Like the eggs.
That's it.
Face huggers.
That's it.
It's all go.
Yeah, so I'm just going to call him crab things because I think it sounds better. And yeah, so Superman gets viciously attacked by one of them, and yeah, it really puts up quite the fight. And obviously he's losing his powers as well, so he gets cut, he gets the acid blood in his eyes, and he turns out, well, he has to sort of, he's blinded for a little bit. But yeah, he really meets his match there, and then he's saved by a blonde woman who is one of the last survivors of the city, and it turns out that her name is Kara.
Yeah.
Which I quite liked, and I liked, well, I guess she hasn't really, I probably should have said before we started this that there will be spoilers. Just ruin the whole comic for you now. So sorry about that, guys, but yeah, so I like that she's involved, but she isn't quite the character you think she is in this sense, if that makes sense.
Because at this time in the mainstream comics, Supergirl wasn't a thing really. They had Matrix, who was kind of like a makeshift Supergirl, but Superman's cousin she's been missing since Crisis on Infinite Earths at this point, and kind of retconned out of continuity.
Oh. Well, I didn't know that, so that makes more sense as to why she isn't Supergirl in this, because I was like, it seems like a waste to introduce her and not. So there's hints of it, but yeah, she doesn't really become Supergirl in there. So then she kind of explains to Superman everything of what's happening, what they're doing in the city, and how they've pretty much taken over. And then he then realizes that he's made a huge mistake by sending casualties back to Earth, because they've obviously been impregnated by those crab things. And obviously Lois is with the
Ashley's face.
I'm sorry. For any Alien fans out there, I'm really sorry.
I mean, their actual name is not much better than crab things. They're called face huggers.
Yeah. I think crab things sounds
their actual name.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds better. I'm just gonna rebrand it. But yeah, so the people that he sent back to Earth, where Lois is been impregnated by the crab things, and he's too late, and I've put the baby aliens start popping out of the chests, like in the film that we're used to.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of goes out of control from there, and then Lois gets attacked by the alien. And there's all sorts of stuff going on in terms of, there's just too many aliens in this story.
Wait till the sequel, Tasmin.
Oh God.
Wait till the sequel.
Well, there's a lot of aliens in this, but I mean, you've got aliens, you've got Alien, you've got the queens, you've got the babies, and you've also got Superman, who's an alien. So there's a lot of aliens. But yeah, Superman frantically tries to get back to help them, and Lois comes face to face with the alien, as I said, and then Dr. Kimball, who is the woman that they've gone to see, and she's the one that's found all of this technology and stuff. She kind of shows her true colors, and pretty much locks Lois in with the alien to save themselves. And she doesn't want to destroy the alien because she wants to like test on it and turn it into a weapon for LexCorp, which is typical LexCorp. But it's interesting that Lex Luthor he's not even in this comic. He's just sort of referenced, and he's not actually the bad guy in this, even though it's his company, if that makes sense. But yeah, everyone just pretty much gets attacked by aliens, but not just one, there's hundreds, and Superman tries to take them down, and they attack the only safe place in the city, which is where Kara and the rest of the survivors live. So we don't really know how many people have survived this catastrophe, but we end up seeing Kara and one person who sadly dies. So I think I quite like the fact that Superman's there with her when she becomes the last of her kind, or she thinks she is. So I thought that was quite nice. Well, not nice, but supportive,
touching.
Yeah.
Symbolic.
That's it. Yeah. And Superman kind of toys with the idea of killing the aliens, and pretty much settles against it after he promised that he'd never kill again because of the Kryptonians thing, because of how much that affected him. But I mean, I think he's crazy. I know what he stands for, and I know he doesn't like killing, but I think these aren't, like, they've already proven that they've got no sort of room for bargain. That's it.
This is like an epic like multiple year arc in the 90s comics where Superman is struggling with this. So it's like one of the defining moments of the character in that decade.
Yeah.
Where he makes that resolution that he's never going to kill ever again. And the consequences of when he did kill the first time. And so it makes sense that he would be just like hardcore, like there's no compromise in this resolution I've made.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though like absolutely you should kill these things.
Yeah.
Like there's a wasp's nest, in your house. You're gonna kill the wasp's nest,
Yeah.
like the wasp.
But it's
that's
weird.
the fact. For years as well, like on in the games, in the comics, and the films, the xenomorph, the aliens, are the ultimate evil. There is no redeeming kind of.
That's it, yeah.
There is no kind of redeeming. There's no silver lining about their species. They are killers, and they are the ultimate things of nightmares. So they've been for years and years. They've been cast like these types of the ultimate evil. So
yeah,
Well,
and this comic just adds to it. Like there's no sympathy from them in this.
No.
But it's interesting because obviously Superman's dead against killing the aliens. Well, he kind of toys with the idea in some situations, but then he's happy to watch Kara flame throw them or what else? like other people kill them right in front of him and he doesn't hesitate or doesn't try to stop them, which seemed a bit weird for me, but at least he's not doing it himself, I guess.
Yeah.
And they deserve it, to be fair, because they've killed a whole city. And well, I'm sure it's just kind of a loop because they just appear on a ship and then someone from the city will go and find the ship when it's broken down, and then it's just like it seems like a constant loop. So they've obviously been doing that
in the films. They are like that. They are sort of like the way that the stories unfold. They are sort of like a parasite. There is no end. And you've actually nailed it. For someone who doesn't like the franchise, it is like a cycle. It's like a vicious cycle whereby they just keep on. The wheel keeps turning, and they keep finding new, areas, or they find new colonies or places to just keep on doing what they do. Reproduce, kill, reproduce, kill.
Yeah, they just seem like they haven't got much of a purpose. Like, what are they doing it for?
I mean that is perhaps why, like, the films maybe. Well, I've never known them to be divisive, but I've come across you guys, so But I mean, one of the things that I liked about this, just to go back a little bit when we were talking about the initial skirmish between the face huggers and Superman, is that the Alien franchise has always been like an 18, like a hard 18. Blood and gore and violence. And to marry them up with Superman, who is perhaps considered more of a PG character, or like over here in the UK, like a U, I found that was quite an interesting dichotomy that they managed to find a middle ground between, such a hard R18 kind of franchise and Superman.
Yeah,
I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the panels where the aliens do attack the people, they are quite graphic and gory.
Yeah.
So I think.
Yeah.
Well, this is like it's not a DC. Well, it is DC, but it's Dark Horse, isn't it? So it's like the darker, heavier side. Yeah. But it works for this, and it's not too much. There's not too much gore, but because even for me, I've only seen the first film and the prequel, but when you see the things coming out of the chest, like exactly the noises and all that sort of stuff. So it's quite nice in that sense. But and also what I loved about the series is the fact that every time you see Superman when he's getting attacked by aliens, a little part of his suit's gone. So the first time the symbol was scratched out, the second time he pretty much rips his whole torso part of the suit, and then the next time you see him he's got one of the legs gone, and I was never expecting him just to be in the trunks by the end of the series.
also a hallmark of the 90s, like it's like Goku in Dragon Ball Z. The more clothes he's lost, the harder the battle was, so like his suit's always just getting ripped to shreds. I love that.
Well, there was a few rips, but I was thinking like the chest rip made sense because that was like scratching out the hope, which was quite symbolic, I thought. But then it just seemed like it was like perfectly cut, like he had gone through it with a pair of scissors rather than had it torn off by like several aliens. But that made me laugh. So Superman then gets infected by the crab thing. I'm just gonna laugh every time I say that. And then we later find out that Kara is too, and he then decides to tell her that they're both he thinks that they're both Kryptonians, and that they can, if they get to a sun, then they'll both develop the powers and then sort of be fine, because she's just very negative. She's a proper negative Nancy in this series. Like, she's not the Kara we know and no. Not the Kara I know and love. I don't know what she's been like in some of the other comics, but yeah, she's just, which is understandable because of what she's gone through, but she handles it very differently to what Superman has, because he's obviously lost his world as well, like she is literally losing it in front of him. But it's nice that he sort of passes his hope onto her, even in a situation like this where, you know, the odds really are against him because they're fighting thousands of these aliens, and obviously Superman's got powers, Kara hasn't, so it's still sort of a vulnerable situation. And she then tells him that it's pretty much impossible for her to be Kryptonian because the Kryptonians are genetically linked to the planet and wouldn't last long after it was destroyed. And Jor-El had to cure that before sending Kal away. I've never known that before. Is that?
No.
Well, that's something that they created with the John Byrne reboot, and it's like, because after the Crisis, you know, before the Crisis, you have all this crazy continuity from the 50s and 60s, and anything goes. And so when they came back in 85, they're like, no, hard continuity, we're hard and fast rules, and we're sticking to it. So they made this whole mythology from Krypton, and now from like 2006 onward, they kind of are just like, they can fudge everything. They're like, oh, well, yeah, we don't care so much. But back then, between 85 and like 2006, it's like, yes, these are the hard and fast mythological rules, and that was one of them. Okay. That's they made that up, so they explain why nobody else could have left Krypton.
Yeah.
Because they're genetically, they can't leave the planet.
Yeah, that's just the first time I've
never heard of that myself.
No, same. Well, I've read like the Death and Return of Superman, like the iconic 90s things, but I haven't read the entire run, so I've obviously missed all of that.
That first comes up in Superman Exile, where he's exiled into space.
Okay.
Which is a great story arc.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that one actually. But yeah, did not know that, and I'm looking forward to getting to know that a bit more. Do they sort of play on it a bit more after they announce it, or is it just?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and then this was what I was talking about in the continuity. There's an editor's note on this panel which refers to some events in an Action Comics annual issue. So I was just going to ask whether it was in continuity, which it sounds like it is. But basically they end up blowing up all the aliens, and it doesn't quite go to plan. Superman can't find Kara and assumes that she's dead. So he then flies up to the sun to get his powers and goes back to save Lois Lane. And in this bit, I was just a little, well, not annoyed, but I thought he could have just, because in the comic, because he's lost some of his powers, he can only jump. He can't fly. So how, when they blew up all the aliens, how can he suddenly fly to the sun when he could have done that in the first place and saved everybody? They don't really explain that, but yeah. There's a good panel where Lois and that Dr. Kimball is about to get attacked by the aliens that are on the ship, and Superman, like, aliens sort of coming near their face like in the film, and Superman literally just puts his arm through the alien's jaw, and he's got the symbol of hope tied around his arm. And I love that moment. That was really good. But the artwork is really good in this, because I think Kevin Nolan sort of got the look of the alien perfectly, but also Superman, because they're very different, obviously different characters, but two different tonal scales. Like aliens all dark and black, and then Superman's all bright and blue. But yeah, the artwork was really good. And But I enjoyed the series, and like I said before, I don't really like Alien, but reading this was definitely not a chore. So I'm looking forward to reading the second one. But I think it's mostly because I care more about the characters that are involved, and I know the characters. I know obviously now from the Alien films, Ripley and some of the other characters, like I can't remember the guy you said, but whoever you were talking about,
they're the Colonial Marines.
Yeah, they're obviously more they're obviously loved as well, but because I'm not a fan of the series or the film series, I don't really care if they live or die in those films. Introduce a dog, and then maybe I'll watch it a bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I liked it, but I'm looking forward to reading some of the other crossovers that we've got coming up. But by the sounds of it, there seems to be a lot of crossovers that I didn't even know about, like the Superman Predator. So
I mean, this is even done by Alex Maleev, one of my favorite artists.
Yeah, he's great.
And just flicking through it now, it is just superb stuff. This is not a book that's kind of like an afterthought or sort of like a little side project. This feels like a big deal. Flicking through it, this feels like a big deal back then. It's gorgeous.
There's a Superman versus War of the Worlds, where H.G. Wells. It's what if Superman was on the Earth when that happened.
Oh, okay.
In that fictional universe is one of those. I think we should save all of the Marvel crossovers as their own like category, because there's so many of those. There's some great Superman Silver Surfer crossovers, which I love.
Yeah, I think I've got the Superman versus I don't know if it's versus, but Superman Fantastic Four. I know is it Superman Hulk? There's Superman Spider-Man. Obviously, Superman versus Muhammad Ali. That's a huge crossover.
I saw the other day in my local comic book shop. I saw Superman versus Thundercats.
Okay, I didn't.
Oh, really?
I mean, there's so many. Dave's given us like a hard category to sort of cover, because there's so many different crossovers, and obviously I picked this one because this is one that Dave suggested. But
we've got lots of episodes. We'll get to them.
Yeah. Maybe we should just try and do one each time, or every now and then when the comics die down, we'll pick another crossover. And
but this was a fantastic time, I think, in comics. I was only just like flicking through before, like I got Carl Rayner versus Aliens as well. Which was great for the 90s. So it really was a really prime time for this type of thing. Lots of sort of bleeding over from different franchises and whatnot, and I enjoyed it. This was a great period of time for me.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Do they still do it now? Because I can't think of any crossovers that have come out recently. Are they?
There hasn't been a ton of Superman ones, but like I said recently, in the past couple of years, I read Green Lantern versus Star Trek. Green Lantern versus Planet of the Apes.
Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Batman Ninja Turtles 3 times.
Yeah. And an animated movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few crossovers with Scooby-Doo as well, isn't there? And the Looney Tunes and stuff like that. But because it's all handled by Warner Brothers, I didn't really count that as a complete crossover, like in this respect.
Yeah. But it's a shame though, because obviously Marvel now have the rights to Alien, and they're producing their own Alien series at the moment. So I don't think we're going to get any more Batman, Superman, Alien, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's probably more complicated now because of all the rights and stuff as well.
Yeah.
But we could see the Aliens and Predators introduced into mainstream Marvel at some point.
Oh, that's going to be good.
Which would be neat.
I think Philip Kennedy Johnson's writing the Alien comics,
isn't
he? Yeah. Which, admittedly, I haven't read because I don't like Alien, but that's no shade to Philip Kennedy Johnson. It's just because I don't like it. It's because I don't like Alien.
I've been reading it. It's really good.
Yeah.
They've really stayed true. Yeah, they've really stayed true to sort of like the where the franchise came from, but also really expanding it and creating new ideas. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's been great, and I know that they're teased that Predator's going to come out as well. So.
Okay. Wow. Cool. Yeah. We'll move on to the comic books then. Which there was a fair few to go through, I think.
Do you mind if I give the update on the Suicide Squad first?
Yeah, go for it.
Get that out of the way.
Yep.
So, where last we left off, the Superboy who we've been following in the Suicide Squad has been revealed to be a clone wearing the t-shirt costume, and now we've seen the real Superboy that we were following in Young Justice, who is apparently living on the Kent farm. And so if you go to the very next issue, so that was issue 6, if you go to issue 7, you're not going to know what's happening because the story picks up in Suicide Squad Annual #1, which I did not know, so I had to go read that. So Annual #1 and then #7. So what happens is it's revealed that the Superboy who we've been following is actually Match, who is Superboy's clone from the 90s. And whenever you need a good twist involving Superboy, you just bring in Match, because they've done this over and over and over and over again. They did it in the Young Justice Sins of Youth. They did it in the Teen Titans with Jeff Johns when he wrote it. And that's the last time I think we saw him. And it's really cool how much attention they're paying to the continuity, because the last time we saw him, he was wearing that t-shirt costume, and he had degraded into like a Bizarro sort of type character because he's a faulty clone. Oh. And so here in the Suicide Squad series we've been reading, they've had to give Superboy injections, and we haven't known why. And it's revealed, well, we needed to give him injections so he doesn't turn into a Bizarro, and we realize that he's Match and not Superboy. And so Superboy and him come to blows, and then Superboy realizes who he really is, and he's always trying to help Match. He's always, because Match was created under horrible circumstances, and he's always trying to say, like, dude, you need to get out of this. You could be your own person. I can help you. Match never wants any help. And so it ends with the Suicide Squad escaping. The real Superboy is left, there in the dust. He doesn't know what's going on. He's going to go off to wherever. And then we come back, and now Match is in the Suicide Squad proper. They're giving him the injections again, and he's kind of harnessed his own identity, and he's like, okay, I am Match, but I'm going to take these injections so I don't be stupid, and now I can be my own person. And I think, I can't remember who it is, but somebody on the Suicide Squad has a crush on him. And so she's happy that he's not being a Bizarro.
Yeah.
So, and then in issue 7, a new member of the team arrives, and it's Ambush Bug. And do you guys know Ambush Bug?
I know him from the New 52 bulletins at the end of each issue.
And they started doing stories in Action Comics with it. He was in the backup story in the Action Comics. He was in there, I think.
Yeah, he's basically DC Deadpool. And so now, because he breaks the fourth wall, and he's always cracking jokes, and he has some very, very funny stuff in that one. But I think this is where I might hop off of the book, because it's not real Superboy. And now, they've been going on adventures to the different multiversal Earths, and now she has literally sent them to literal hell on a mission. and who is waiting for them in literal hell but all of the Suicide members who have died over the years, and they've formed their own team in hell.
There's got to be a lot of them.
Now they want revenge on Amanda Waller. So it's like, all right, I think I'm done. So
I don't know. That sounds quite interesting. But it's interesting that Match, or the Superboy clone, has found his identity in the Suicide Squad rather than in any of the other comic series before.
Yeah, and I'm actually really happy about this, because Match is a cool character, and it's nice that they're kind of giving him his own thing apart from Superboy. And I think that's a really neat way to go, and I think it'll be cool to see what happens with him. And obviously now Superboy Connor Kent is out of the picture. Here, we still haven't seen him in Action Comics or in Son of Superman. Last time we saw him, he is living on the Kent farm, and then we see him here investigating Match. So I'm anxious to see where he's going to show up next.
Yeah. It'd be a shame if they just if he just disappears for a while. I hope he does join one of the books.
Yeah.
They should even just do a Superboy series again like they used to.
That would be awesome.
Maybe that was part of the plan to drive more traction to the character, because Superboy kind of went quiet for a bit.
Yeah.
Well, I think the plan was when they brought him back, I thought they thought Young Justice is going to go on for a long time, and then, the bottom fell out, and all those series got canceled all at once.
Yeah.
Because that was under Brian Bendis's imprint. Was it Wonder Comics, wasn't it?
Yep. And all of those books got canceled at the same time when that whole thing happened. So,
all right then. So we'll go on to Superman versus Lobo issue 1. Have you both read this?
Yes.
I loved it. But yeah, it's written by Tim Seeley and Sarah Beatty, with art by Mirka Andolfo and colors by Fabio Emilia. This series was, when I first heard about it, because they said it was going to be about social media and stuff like that, I was like, oh, come on. But I think they've done it really well, and I don't know why, but there's something about always seeing Superman and Lobo in a comic together, because they're like the polar opposites of each other. I don't know, I just really like the way that particularly Lobo sort of beats down Superman in every sense, in terms of taking the mick out of him pretty much. So that's quite nice. But yeah, what did you guys think of it?
I loved it. I thought this was a great first issue. When I was reviewing it, I found that I was talking more about Lobo than I was Superman, because I feel Lobo definitely took precedence. Yeah. It felt like his title, almost. But it was great, and I think Lobo is a really good character to use when you are dealing with real world subject matter. Because the things that were highlighted in this issue, sort of like the way social media can go bad, and the way that society can kind of turn on people, and obviously Superman is there for all of us. He wants to do as much good as he can, but in this issue, people are saying, no, I don't want you to do that because you're causing more harm than good. You may have rescued me from a burning car, but you broke the door off to do it, and now I've got no door on my car. Even though it's a burnt husk.
Yeah,
but
exactly it.
He's a really good character to use for real world issues, I find, and they tackled them really well in this, and it was full of them as well.
Yeah. I enjoyed how Lobo kind of hijacks cancel culture, and he's just immediately aware of how to do that. He just gets on there, he starts his own YouTube show, and he's got the ring light, and he just gets on there and he's like, cancel Superman, and then everybody's like, cancel Superman and cancel Lobo, cancel both of them.
Yeah.
And it just it turns on its head. I thought it was very good.
Yeah.
I especially liked that new girl character from the fifth dimension, who's like she's doing her thesis or whatever on lower life forms. I thought that was fantastic. What a great use of that. Yeah. The fifth dimension trope and that whole species of characters in a way that we've never seen before. And I love how she's just is talking about them like they're not even there. They can clearly understand her and know what she's about and stuff.
Yeah, it's just analyzing them right next to him.
Yeah.
So to give a bit of context as to what we're talking about, because if you haven't read it, then you have no clue what we're talking about. But the story is so we open up at the Daily Planet, where Clark and Perry are discussing angles when it comes to a news story, and that story is a brand new app called Lexa, which is basically the Twitter of the DC universe by the sounds of it. And on that app, Lex has pretty much blocked anyone from sharing posts where they're talking negatively about him and any of his businesses. So obviously one side of the story is all of these news things that Lexa is putting out there, but then Clark obviously wants to get the other side of the story where he's actually blocking all this negativity. That's where it starts off. But then in that moment, I really like the moment where Clark's trying to swear in the office and he's doing all the grumbly noises, and Lois and Jimmy sort of make a point that he does it all the time. He just can't swear. I quite like that. But I also liked how the artist showed Superman and Clark sort of whooshing through the Daily Planet to answer Martian Manhunter's call.
Yeah.
So mostly just sort of a red, well, I can't remember if it was red or a blue blur. I think it was red. With several Clarks shown running down the stairs at different stages. I think that was quite cool. And we then move on to Telk, which I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's a resort planet where two crooks are about to put an attack in on a man when someone or something swoops in and takes them. And there's also a character, well, I can't remember the character's name, but I've made a note of her sort of observing the situation. It's not really until later on we're properly introduced to her, where we figure out that she's a wildlife and biologist photographer, and she's doing all this research on is it the last
I was whatever said lower life forms.
Yeah.
It's the last of the species.
And well, she can't believe the look when she's obviously there for Lobo, and then she ends up getting Superman as well, so she ends up doing quite well there. But we then cut to Lobo enjoying his vacation, and this whole robbery and the something that I can't remember what it's called, but there's some sort of monster that disrupts his holiday, and that's what kind of kicks all of this off. And he kind of goes out to stop this thing, simply because he has ruined his holiday. Like, that level of pettiness is.
Well, yes, and it is very Lobo, because people are just dying all around him, being crushed to death, and he's like complaining about, like, I didn't get, there were no new towels in my room.
Yeah,
like, and the guy gets crushed. He's like, I need my money back. Hey, I'm talking. Are you listening? He's like clearly just dead. Like, he doesn't care. So for spilling his drink, I think that's what starts him off. He then literally tries to spill the guts of this monster, which is a bit different in scale, but yeah. Lobo's dialogue though and personality was captured really well in this part, because he's just like constantly swearing, throwing insults, like you said, talking to people when they're dead, like, without a care. But my personal favorite insult is, "You big damn gravy balloon." Like, he's just, his insults aren't just the standard ones, they're just really elaborate, and I think they're really funny. And we then cut to Superman answering the call from Martian Manhunter, where he finds that the ship and its crew were sabotaged by one of their own. And I really like how Superman goes into detail that he knows how the person that they've arrested is actually lying, because normally they don't always explain that. They just assume that he knows that they're not lying, which I thought
He's
that was
done a Daredevil, didn't he? He figured it out by the guy's heartbeat, right? Or his pulse,
yeah, that was it.
Love
it. The way that Superman's drawn in this, sometimes he looks a bit weedy to me.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, I'd go there.
The only time I didn't like him was with the full page spread when he's like flying toward the camera. I was like, that's not the best. But every other page I enjoyed how he was drawn.
Yeah, I just think he had a weird jawline as well. There was just something about it that just didn't quite sit right with me. But hey ho. So yeah, back to Lobo, and he's with the doctor lady, and she's pretty much analyzing him out loud in front of him, like he said, like as if he's not even there, which I can imagine to be really annoying. And I mean, fair play to Lobo, he's pretty patient with her, I think. And but they kind of go on.
I love that, like, because she is from the fifth dimension. Even if they did want to do something about her, they can't do anything about it. Like, she's just like on another level of power that even if they tried to hurt her, there's no way they could.
Yeah. But yeah, in a response to her and her attempts to get to him, because she kind of transforms into these different things, isn't it? There's a female version of Lobo that she tries to get his attention with. Was it a robot or something like that? There's all these sort of different types of people that she turns into to try and get his attention, and he literally throws a Ferris wheel of people at the monster to take them down, take it down once and for all. And it's just so savage. But luckily Superman gets there just in time to catch it, and that's where we kind of figure out, well, we know that they're very different, and Lobo sort of accuses Superman of doing things half-assed and doesn't want to kill the creature because he's trying to get through to it, and Lobo obviously is all about kill, just for spilling his drink. So
we're kind of getting this at the moment, really, in like Justice League Last Ride as well.
Yeah,
you know, they're staying very sort of true to the character. He really despises Superman because he is the polar opposite of him.
yeah.
You know, they might both be the last sons of their, you know, respective cultures or planets, but they are polar opposites. And I just like how that thread is always maintained, even now, you know, from one series to another.
I disagree. I don't think that thread is always maintained, because I think that even though, like, sometimes, even though they are polar opposites, Lobo ends up having a respect for Superman.
Yeah.
You know, the Superman keeps helping him. He's like, you know what, you may be lame, but you're okay. You know, and that, you know, that's often the case. And then Superman's like, yeah, great, get off my planet. Like, I'm glad we're not fighting anymore, but we're not friends. Please leave. and I think like Lobo like considers himself Superman's friend, you know, but like Superman's like, no, absolutely not. Like, I feel like Lobo would show up unannounced to Superman's bachelor party.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, something like that. But yes, and then there's these other ones where he's just like, okay, Superman, you know, I thought you were okay, but now you get me off, and I got to take you down. But I think they always end up on that page where Superman's just like glad that he is gone, and Lobo's like, yeah, that was good. We're friends again.
There was a statement that Lobo made on here. He's like, don't let the moon hit you on the way out, which made me laugh. I don't think that was to the Superman thing.
Can we talk about that Turtle Boy is in this comic?
Mm-hmm.
Turtle Boy?
Hello. Turtle Boy. Jimmy turns into the giant, or is it Turtle Man? I can't remember. But
is it?
He's got a full page. Yeah, he's got a full page spread, which is one of the famous Silver Age stories from the Jimmy Olsen comic books, where he turns into a giant turtle man.
Yeah.
And they keep bringing that up, and so apparently that just happened a day before this, and it's one of the reasons why people.
I didn't even know page.
Yeah.
I thought we saw the turtle, but I don't.
We covered that in our Jimmy Olsen reviews as well from a little while back, where they referenced Turtle Man as well. So.
Well, I saw the turtle, but I didn't click that it was Jimmy. Shows how much attention I pay when I read comic books.
Well, this was a long one, you know. I mean, DC Black Label have been doing really well at, you know, bringing out issues that are fully loaded. I mean, this was a really chunky issue. I mean, I remember reviewing it, and it was a big read. So, you know, kudos to DC for putting these titles out, because you're getting a lot for your buck.
Yeah,
a lot going on for sure. Because I mean, there's even stuff with like Toyman in this, if I'm not mistaken, which I kind of forgot about. He appears like later on in the issue, so I don't blame you for like forgetting certain bits and bobs, because this was fully loaded.
Yeah, it's a longer story too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
So I will have to depart in about 15 minutes.
Okay.
So I do want to talk about Justice League Infinity before I have to leave. I've got to go pick up my daughter from school.
Oh.
So
you can't leave her there now. Okay, yeah. You crack on with that, and we'll go back. Is
there anything else you want to say about Superman Lobo?
I've got a few more pages. So do Justice League Infinity now, and we'll come back to Superman.
All right. So yes, Justice League Infinity is the third issue of the continuation of the DC animated universe, and for the first time ever, we're seeing Calvin Ellis in this series, which is pretty cool. The only alternate Earth we ever saw in the animated series was the Justice Lord's Earth. So there was never really established like a multiverse. It was like this maybe just like a one-off dimension. Well, and I guess there was that that Superman one in the Superman animated series where he was like a Nazi guy. But here we're seeing the full Justice League. Now, I'm not very familiar with the Calvin Ellis universe, but I do know that he does have a super powered wife. And here she's Wonder Woman. I think that's the case in the mainstream comics as well, but I'm not familiar with the other heroes depicted here. So I don't know if this is just like a made up version of Calvin Ellis's Earth just for the DCAU continuity, or if this is, mainstream. I don't know. It also appears that the Batman from Batman Brave and the Bold is in this as well. So that's a great television series. So they're having the same multiversal shenanigans going on where people are crossing over and getting replaced with other people. And Calvin Ellis is taken away and everybody's freaking out about that. And then we return to the regular Earth that we follow, and they've captured Overman, who is the Nazi version of Superman. And they're interrogating him, and the person doing most of the interrogating is Lois, and she is just going like full tilt. She's like, "You maniac, tell me where he is." And, like, Batman's like calming her down. Like,
getting ready to waterboard them, like.
Yeah. She's like, any means necessary. Overman escapes, but he's quickly taken down by the Justice League, which is nice. Another thing, Lois is narrating this. So every issue has been narrated so far. We've had Martian Manhunter, we've had Superman, and now it's Lois. So I thought they were going to do, because there's 7 issues, and usually there's 7 members of this team. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was going to switch between different Justice League members, but no, it's Superman, or it's Lois now. So very interesting. So yeah, they capture him, and he decides that Overman breaks really easily, and he's like, "Okay, fine, well, I'll help you." So that was cool, and he's gonna team up with them and help them because he doesn't want the multiverse to be destroyed either. And then we come back and we see our Superman, who is on the Savage Time Earth, where Vandal Savage has taken over, and with the Third Reich and whatever. And he's hanging out with General Zod and Doomsday and Metallo. And we talked about that last time. It's like a Clayface version of Doomsday, a female version of Metallo, and General Zod, who looks exactly like he does from the Silver Age comic books. And General Zod is good. Like, he's just always been good in this universe.
It's like hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like, the more we learn about him, he's Jewish. General Zod is Jewish. And so we don't get the full picture, but what I'm piecing together is General Zod is basically like the Superman of this Earth, where he must have come either from, he had to have come as a child. So either he's come to Earth as a child, has been raised by a Jewish family, and so now he's a full-grown person with the same kind of background as traditional Superman, but it's a Jewish family. And so it's also very poignant because I realized this after the fact that they're living under the Nazi rule, so that has extra significance for why he would want to destroy the Third Reich, which is pretty cool. And they go into they're the leading of the resistance. We find out that this Doomsday is not traditional Doomsday; it's actually Professor Emil Hamilton, who has been mutated into Doomsday.
Nice.
And he's a mainstay character from Superman the Animated Series, and then later in the Justice League series as well. So that's very interesting. And then Calvin Ellis appears in the Resistance, and everybody is immediately like, "Oh no, another Overman guy!" And they all try to fight him. Apparently, kryptonite does not affect Calvin Ellis. Metallo tries to hit him. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's traditional of Calvin Ellis's character or not.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Calvin Ellis. I've only read a few issues with him in.
I know that in some stories, kryptonite from other Earths doesn't affect Superman because it's not on the same Earth. So it's not made of the same materials. So that could be the case. Also in Earth 3, Kryptonite actually powers Ultraman. So if you try to use Kryptonite on him, it's not going to be helpful.
Yeah.
So the Resistance is trying to fight Calvin Ellis. He's taking him out easy. Then it's Calvin versus Clark, and they're gonna fight. And right before they start fighting, they're like, you know what? I can tell you're a good guy. Let's not fight. Let's be friends. And I'm like, what a Superman way to, handle the trope of the heroes always fight before they, they're gonna fight. They're like, you know what? No.
Yeah.
You can tell.
I did like the cover actually, which has got all the different characters from the different Earths and their counterparts.
Yes.
That was cool.
Yes, and that's a great cover. I love seeing these characters that we know and love, and they're depicted in a more mainstream comic book art style. I think that's really cool because they have a couple of like distinct features. Like I think Wonder Woman, it's very reminiscent of some of her comic book stuff, but it's still very like unique and specific to the show, and it's rendered in a comic book way. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we go back to the main Earth. We get a great shot of the Justice League Unlimited Watchtower satellite, which is just it's such a cool design. And then Wonder Woman disappears. She's talking to Batman. She's been transported to another Earth, and we see Batman react really emotionally to this, which is further confirming they have moved up to the next level in their relationship between Batman, because it was just like all flirtation in the show and they never went anywhere with it. It seems like it's gone somewhere, and this is neat because it looks like she's just disappeared, but every time someone disappears, they've been replaced with their doppelganger, right? The doppelganger that she's been replaced with is just a pile of bones in like the Wonder Woman tiara and laughing. So it's like a long dead Wonder Woman doppelganger.
Okay.
Which I thought was really interesting. That's a really original take on that sort of thing. They go into the hangar. Basically, what they've decided to do is they're going to go fly into this vortex thing and figure out what's going on. So, sounds like a good plan. And what we get to see is a brand new version of the Javelin transport ship, which are, they had one version in season 1 of Justice League, and then they had another version in Unlimited, and now here is a third version that they've made specifically for this comic. It's great. It looks like it's just made. It looks like an actual spearhead more than any of the other Javelins have looked.
Not to be mixed up with Javelin from Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Yes, not
Javelin Man.
Yes. And then we also see the two previous models of the Javelin next to it. So it was a really cool page. I liked it a lot. And then they fly into the thing. They fly into the vortex, and that's the last we see of them. And then the last 2 pages, we are left at the cliffhanger because we follow Wonder Woman to where she has gone. And it's a desolate ice world. And she senses that there's just something dark and menacing about this place that she can't put her finger on. And then she goes into a cave for shelter because she's wandering around like basically the planet Hoth in a strapless bikini or like, a strapless one-piece bathing suit. So she's like, I always wonder about that. Like when she goes to like cold places, does she get cold because she's like an Amazon? Apparently in this place she does. So she goes to this cave, and who is there but Darkseid himself, the big bad of the Justice League Unlimited universe, the ultimate villain. And we have not seen him since the series finale. The last episode of anything that has been produced in this universe was the last time we saw Darkseid. And here he is looking different. The last time we saw him, he and Lex Luthor went off to parts unknown. He's looking different here than we last saw him, which may mean this could be a alternate doppelganger version from the Darkseid we know. Another good hint of this is the caption that we are left with on the cliffhanger. It says, next issue, Darkseid, ... my love. what could it mean? Well, then we look at the cover for the next issue, and it's Wonder Woman making out with Darkseid.
I admit, I saw that cover and I was like, well, what is going on?
So I can only assume this is another alternate version of Darkseid who on his Earth was in love with Wonder Woman. And so I cannot wait to read this next issue. Like, the only other time I've seen something like this was you know how DC does, like, periodically they do a romance special. You know, they'll put out, like, they've done this in
Valentine's Day or something like that.
Yeah. And one of the recent ones was a fake out cover reminiscent of the covers from the 50s, where it's Superman jealously looking at Lois and Darkseid, who are flirting, and Lois is like, he's like, I just don't know what she sees in him. And that story was not in the issue, unfortunately, but now maybe we'll get to see something like that in the 4th issue of this series. So it's just going to zany, weird places. And it's interesting because, you know, this show, unlike recent shows, which are they've really taken to heart, you know, let's just take the stories from the comics and basically just adapt them one for one. Like they've done that in Justice. They've done that in the recent movies. They're like, let's just do that. Back in the day, for some reason, the studio mindset was just like, we can't do that. The television audience will never accept that. We need to just vaguely take concepts from the comics and we'll vaguely adapt the storylines. You know, we'll take the characters, but we'll make up our own storylines. And that's always been the tradition of the Justice League show. And they're doing it here. Like, they're just like, we're not going to reference any, you know, mainstream stuff. We're taking the characters. We're doing our own thing.
Yeah.
So I like it.
To be fair, from your reviews. Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say one last update that I have from Superman in this is that we have confirmation that Lois and Superman are dating. She says that they're dating. But we still don't know if that means Clark is involved in the picture or it's just Superman showing up at her house for dates. You know, and she just doesn't know.
Ultimate lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, from your reviews and from like when you talk about on here, it does sound really, really, really good. And yeah, I need to get a move on watching these programs because I need to read it, and I need to know. Well, I'm going to find out from you, but I need to know what's happening with Wonder Woman and Darkseid.
Yeah. I just can't wait. I cannot wait to figure out what in the world is going on here. It's just one of the best things. It's the best thing since Wonder Woman got turned into a pig and Batman had to save her.
What?
Tasmin, we gotta watch the show so we can talk.
We can start doing issue by issue soon. We'll go through it. We'll watch it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, guys, I've got to go. My daughter's waiting for me at school. Sorry, I can't stick around for the whole thing.
No problem.
Maybe next time. Enjoy the rest of the conversation.
We will. I'll see you later.
See you guys later. Adios.
Bye.
So back to Superman versus Lobo. So what we were talking about before, which is the battle of Lobo, well, battle between Lobo, Superman, and this thing, which is it, the new mean or something like that?
Yeah, it's sort of like this sort of like godly kind of otherworldly kind of creature that was around since like the birth of space, you know, light and darkness and things like that. He was there at like the Big Bang kind of thing. And I think his disorientation, or the reason why he started wrecking this pleasure planet, is because he can kind of grow in size and he can shrink down. And I think whenever he gets too big, there's kind of like some type of destabilization in his mind, and he becomes a bit kind of grouchy, let's say. So he was wrecking shop, but he didn't mean to. Yeah. But obviously Lobo took him out in his own very specific kind of way.
Yeah, and obviously that got covered by the news outlets and things like that. But the news outlets didn't necessarily show the full picture of the story, which kind of starts this thing between Superman and Lobo. So basically, they showed like biased facts showing Superman to be more of the hero when actually it was Lobo that took the creature down pretty much. So obviously Lobo's not very happy about that, and so he sets up his own hashtag, which is no thanks Superman, like we were saying before. And people are literally saying that they don't want to be saved by Superman. Now, I thought this wasn't necessarily a dig on well, I suppose it could be both. I thought it was a dig towards like the anti-vaxxers from like COVID, but then it could be taken the other way, and it could be like the cancel culture on and social media and stuff. So I guess
I totally agree with you. I mean, when I was reading it, I definitely read it as that. I sort of saw it as we have the right to be outraged, therefore I am outraged. And like Lex says, Superman, one of Lex's like prime arguments against Superman is he takes away our desire to be more. We can't. How can we could never attain what Superman is by conventional means, so why bother? And I just kind of see it as that, like Superman is like this being, and he's sort of there to help us and to guide us, and we're just outraged today at the moment. We're kind of saying no thank you, Superman. And that's how I kind of read it, in a very tongue-in-cheek fashion. This issue never really got heavy or bogged down in it, or made it to feel like it was kind of trying to force its opinion on me. It was all done very lightly and very in jest, and much more of a satirical way than anything else of showing what the world is like at the moment.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you're saying as well. Like, it's because of the fact that it's Lobo. I think if it was another character, it probably wouldn't seem so, because it's quite humorous in it, all of this situation and sort of the stuff that he does. But I think if it was somebody else, it probably wouldn't quite work.
And there's testament to the way that Lobo is written. He is a character that kind of, I know he has very strong British links with the creators from the past that have worked on him. Obviously the variant cover by Simon Bisley. He is a character that is very, in my opinion, very British, and upholds our British kind of sense of humour. For our American kind of followers and viewers and what have you, our kind of the British kind of humor is very different from the rest of the world. Some people can take it in one way and some take it in another, but you're guaranteed that we will take it from each other exactly the way it's meant to be. And I mean, he's a character that exactly, and he's a character that kind of he reminds me of a character that would fit in the kind of 2000 AD kind of world, the world of Judge Dredd, that kind of character. Even like the Pleasure Planet, there are different in the 2000 AD, there are different mega blocks that are made up of pleasure kind of areas and things like that. So he's a great character, and I think he worked really well in this issue for sure.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like I said, I always like seeing Superman and Lobo together, so I'm kind of glad that it's them two taking this on rather than somebody else. But we then go to the trial, which was of Winslow Shot, who is Superman. So that's what you were talking about, where he was introduced. But they're throwing in quite a few villains in this, because obviously you got Lex Luthor with the Lexa, so I'm sure eventually he's going to have a bit more of a role to play in this series. He's not just going to be the app, but so Toyman basically infects all of the phones and activates whatever they're supposed to do. So this series was like very apt, like we said before, for today's society, suggesting that we pretty much abandon our kids because we're on the phone too much. So all these people are sort of on their phone, ignoring everything else, what's going on around them, and then he turns their phones into sort of, they're like little robot monster things, aren't they? Like a transformer, it reminds me.
Perfect.
And it was just basically pointing out the fact that we're on our phones too much, and showing how what our phones can actually do to us in terms of making shaping the kind of person that we are. So then Lobo turns into a YouTuber and declares war on Superman with the hashtags, and Lois teams up with Batman to record her take on Lobo for LexTube. Well, LexTube, not YouTube. And then Toyman turns the robots on both of them, so Superman has to step in on LexTube to make his own statement, which it just all kind of shows how things can get out of control and misinterpreted on social media, and the fact that Superman actually had to go to that level as well to put his point out there just narrows that point down a bit. but yeah, like I said, when I first heard this series was taken on social media, I was a bit skeptical because I think sometimes it's done and it's just, we're all on social media, and sometimes it feels like it's a bit of it's like they're having a go at us for being on social media, when really social media is what runs, like what we're doing is all social media, and do you know what I mean, sort of technology. So sometimes it can feel like a bit of a telling off, but this I think they pulled it off with this, because like I said, I was a bit skeptical and I thought it was going to be a bit crap, but I think they used it really wisely in this one. But at the end, so the monster that Lobo thought he destroyed returns and thinks they're from each other's worlds, don't they? So this is the bit I'm most excited for. I can't wait to see how this plays out. So basically he sent them back, the monster sent them back to the places that he thought that they came from. So he thinks Lobo is from Krypton and Superman is from, is it, I can't pronounce it, is it
Kazanian?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
You're the guy for pronunciation, so I hope I haven't butchered that. But
that's how I would have said it, but I just had no clue. And as a reward for inspiring him, he sends them back to their home after he restores them. So they both end up on the other's territory. So I think that's going to be, it's just like putting the two polar opposites in such a different world. I think it's going to be really good. But
it's going to be great.
Yeah, this series was, the first issue was really good.
Agreed.
And it was much better than I thought it was going to be, I admit. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading them, because sometimes for me the Black Label and the sort of what was it, Superman Year One, was it? That was Black Label as well. Sometimes they can be sometimes they feel like a bit of a chore to read, because there's so much, because it's a bigger comic anyway, and there's usually a lot going on. But I think this was quite well paced, and I quite enjoyed reading it at the time.
Oh, agreed. And you know what? I think we've said this like nearly every episode, but seeing Lobo, and did we miss out with Krypton? Because Lobo looked great in the second season, and I could have done a lot more of that.
Yeah, it's kind of like hard to do in live action. Like, they've always said that Jason Momoa should be the live action Lobo, and I do definitely see it, but he does also play Aquaman, so we can't have both. But I wouldn't know who I would. Obviously, we've got the Lobo from Krypton, who was ridiculously good, but I don't know who I would cast as Lobo for a film. I couldn't think of anyone. I think probably Jason Momoa probably is the most, well, it's not most likely, it's probably never going to happen, but he's the one that looks the most like Lobo, I think, and I think it'd pull the personality off as well. But
agreed.
Maybe one day. So we'll move on to Batman Superman then. So this one, issue 21, which is written by Jean Luen Yang with art by Ivan Rice, inks by Danny Mickey, and colours by Sabine Rich. I want to talk about the covers, particularly the variant cover for this one, because it was so nice. I've got it here somewhere, but I can't find it, otherwise I would show you. But it's by Cara Andrews, and it's gorgeous. Like, Robin's basically driving the classic Batmobile, and Batman's kind of straddling the two seats, and Superman's flying ahead of them. But it's just the way it's. Cara Andrews isn't really. It's not like comic art, is it? It's like it's more art than, I don't know. It's hard to explain what the artwork's like, but I just like the way that the Gotham skyline looks. Like it looks like the lights for the buildings are actually sort of twinkling. Like, it's really realistic, and less sort of comic arty, which is quite nice.
He's a phenomenal artist. I mean, I follow his artwork. He done a book for Image called Renato Jones, and he also done a superb run on Iron Fist. And his interior artwork is a completely different style from his cover artwork, and that always blows my mind, because he done some phenomenal artwork for Darth Vader, the very first Star Wars Darth Vader run, and it's just immense. So I was super stoked to see him on this as well.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any of the interior artwork. I've only ever seen the covers, and I think, don't ask me what comic issue it is, but there's a Superman issue where the variant cover it's like Superman and Lois on top of the Daily Planet. I think they're like flying and kissing or something like that. And no, I'm thinking something else. Superman sat on a roof, like looking over the moon and Metropolis. It just looks really nice, and that's probably one of my favorite covers, which I can't remember what comic it's for, but yeah. So Ashley, I'm going to let you lead on this one if that's okay, because you did the review.
Yes.
So I will say first of all that it isn't my favorite issue from the run.
Okay.
But it's still a solid one. But yeah, I love the exploration of all these different worlds, but sometimes for me it gets a little bit confusing when I'm trying to remember which Superman is which and sort of where they are, kind of thing. So go for it.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with you 100%. It was bittersweet reading this issue because I knew, well, we've all known for a while now that the series is coming into an end. And Superman Batman has always been a blockbuster book for me. You know, when that very first series came out, that was the book I was picking up. I was salivating for that book. And we've had many iterations since. You know, I know there was a new 52 version, but I loved this interpretation or this version of the Batman Superman's title. And yeah, this issue was great. I enjoyed it, not as much as perhaps the other ones, but I still enjoyed it. I liked the exploration of the characters, certainly Batman, when he's kind of mulling over his place in the universe.
Yeah. Now
that he's learned about his sort of like pseudo origin, thanks to Arthur 10. You know, is this truly my God?
Yeah.
You know, what am I?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I've never seen Batman like that. He's always been like, you know, when anyone ever talks to me about Batman, he is like a hurricane. You know, he is just not the wrath of God, but he's just, I can't explain it. He's just he's a tidal wave. Or a you know, that just keeps, it just won't stop.
Yeah.
That's why I always get upset when I think about the Dark Knight Rises. Batman would never leave Gotham, but he's a tidal wave that just keeps coming and coming, and nothing will stop it.
Yeah.
And to see
him so like sure of himself as well, isn't it? Like he's probably one of the most confident heroes out of the lot of them. Like
very pragmatic, you know.
Yeah. Rarely questions himself. He knows exactly what to do. So for them to have Batman feeling this way was quite, it made it seem I don't know what the word is, but it made it seem more effective than it.
Yeah, because if Batman's freaking out, well, he wasn't freaking out, but if Batman's getting these types of thoughts, or what's going to happen for the rest of us? And, you know, our place in the universe and thinking about morality and where we come from, these are all like questions, big, heavy topics that we all think about from time to time or ponder. And seeing Batman do it was very sobering. I think that's how I put it in the review. It was very, very sobering.
Yeah.
That's how I remember feeling at the time. And of course, Superman just swoops in and, you know, I think he gets cut off, but, you know, I could see where he was going to come from. I saw straight away he was going to realign Batman and recenter him and, you know, just be that kind of hope, that ray of hope that we're more than what than where we're from or who created us, you know. So I really liked that. And of course we get straight into the action because Etrigan has kind of taken over, or he's repurposed Superman's robots from the fortress, and now they are causing trouble in Metropolis. We've got parademons causing trouble in Metropolis, so it's going down.
Yeah,
and you really do see Superman full flight, fully powered, just taking down all these kinds of threats, and it is just awe-inspiring. You know, because obviously Superman, he has to pull his punches. We know that he can't fully let go because he doesn't want to harm anyone, which has been a bit of a running theme throughout our episode today. But in this, he's taking them down. You know, he's just destroying these robots. And to see him in full flight, in full force, using his heat vision in tandem with all that power, Oh, it's got giving me goosebumps now thinking about it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And I love to see that because, we always discuss Superman and is he boring or is he overpowered and this and that. And this was just a really nice weighted version of the character. Yes, he is powerful, but, he has to always temper that power, and that must be really hard.
Yeah, that's it. I always like seeing Superman take on robots because, like you said, that's the only time he can, well, depending on who the opponent is, but it's one of the few times he can really let himself go because obviously he doesn't need to worry about doing them real harm because they're just robots. So I'm a fan of seeing him take on robots.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes robots are a little bit, I don't know, it seems just
soulless.
Yeah, that's it.
When he's going up against the Zod, you're going to get that really good kind of back and forth. Zod's going to be like, I always go back now to like the Man of Steel's Zod. How arrogant and how he looks down at Cal. Like, where did you train, on a farm?
Yeah.
That now is like my kind of Zod, and I think you need that with a villain or the participant in the fight, because it's all about psychological warfare as well as physical. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching him like just stretching his legs and really going for it.
Yeah.
We had some really good back and forth with Batman and Robin. This was peak Batman and Robin, and for like a Batman fan, I'm a huge Batman fan, and Batman and Robin or Dick Grayson, their relationship has been very fractured, very splintered over the years. And to see them at peak dynamic duo, was really nice to see. Robin's talking about like his homework and
that running theme that's like one of my favorite things about this series because I'm pretty sure it's been mentioned in like every issue, or at least there's been more than one issue where he's trying to get out of his homework regardless of what's going on. And in this case, you'd think the three of them being attacked by robotic Superman would cut it, but Batman won't let it slide. But
and this was just, I loved their relationship. It really was the perfect example of why Batman needs a Robin, or why there is a Robin. People always talk about sort of like, well, why does a grown man, need a child to help him fight his wars and things like that? And it's so much more than that. It's very much a kind of dependent relationship. Obviously this is a young boy that needs mentoring, he needs nurturing, and Batman is a character that needs that ray of light in his life, even if it's only for a few moments a day, and he brings that.
That's it. Like, it kind of adds another layer to both of the characters, because do you know what I mean? I think in this series in particular, if it was just Batman, it's quite hard to. Batman's quite dark, isn't he? Like, he's dark, not depressing, but he's not full of hope and joy like Robin is.
Yeah.
And like Superman is. So it's quite nice that they've put them together, and I think it just works in this series as well.
Yeah, and I mean, we always talk about sort of like Batman and Robin's relationship, but Robin has a really interesting relationship with Superman too. And you see the flickers of that relationship in this run, because of course, like, Robin names himself after a very famous Kryptonian, after Superman tells him a story about obviously Nightwing and Flamebird. That's where he gets his name from. So I mean, they have like a really unique and interesting relationship as well. So I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed seeing El Diablo and Alana stick around. I was so pleased. I really loved that thread throughout where they kept on meeting these heroes from other timelines, and they kept hanging about like, well, if there's a fight to be fought, let's fight it.
Yeah.
And they were brilliant, man. They were really brilliant together. They were like real sort of a pulp heroine and hero, and let's just call it, they get together.
Yeah. Oh, we've already covered spoilers, so don't worry about that.
It's a perfect relationship. They are brilliant. They are like Green Arrow and Black Canary. They are like Shiara and Carl Hall. They are awesome, and I loved it. And that was a big payoff for me. If they hadn't have got together, I would have been throwing my toys out the frame.
Yeah, you can't really tease something like that and then not carry it out. Like, it was nice to see that actually sort of play out in the comic rather than being hinted at. But I wouldn't be mad if these characters were introduced again in another series. Like, I feel like, I don't know, like we don't really know that much about them, but I think they're good enough to stem
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, a character like El Diablo, you know, I mean, we spoke about it the other day, and I know Evan isn't a big fan of westerns, and I know you're not too, but I mean, the western kind of genre goes hand in hand with like comics, you know, all the sort of pulp heroes from yesteryear. Nice little El Diablo comic book series.
Yeah.
With Alana.
Yeah.
I'll buy that.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, I probably wouldn't because it's not Superman, but I'd like to see it.
Yeah. Well, you'll see the film.
Yeah. I watched the film.
So obviously, so if memory serves, so Superman obviously uses he uses his best power. He reasons with Etrigan, and they all take the fight to R210, and it does it finishes kind of abruptly.
Yeah, I thought.
I'm not gonna lie,
and
it finished with a bit of a wham pow and sort of like a thwack.
Yeah.
And it's over. They did lay the seeds for that, I think, in the previous issue, or maybe the one before it, where they talk about his origin, if you recall, where he's sort of like this godly being, and he finds that he's got no one worships him, or he's been forgotten to the pantheon of time, and so he finds himself at the local cinema or theatre and sees all these people flocking out of the screenings or what have you. So they did lay the seeds for it. I think they kind of blamed his armor in a way, that his armor or the shell that he was wearing or the construct he created around him was kind of influencing him. I think that's the kind of way they took it. That's the way I interpreted it.
Yeah.
But it did end abruptly. But then we learned that the story.
This is where I got confused though, because you have. I don't know whether this is. Okay, no. So I know the bit you're about to talk about, but going before that, I got confused because you've got all these different Supermen and Batmen fighting, and then a giant Superman appears.
Well, I think that was Superman and Batman from the regular timeline.
The giant one.
Yes, I think they were independent, weren't they? And I'm pretty sure they were in the Phantom Zone stone or the Phantom Zone crystal that Etrigan was wearing.
I can't remember.
And they came out.
That makes more sense.
I think it's something to do with space and size, and things are construed differently in the different. Because I mean, the fight took place inside R210's screening room, if you will. So I'd remember that.
Yeah.
But then obviously the issue feels like it comes to kind of a conclusion. Yeah. But then we learn that there's a bit more to come in the annual.
Yeah. But then there's also a tease at the very end after everyone's kind of put back in their respective worlds. And then there's like it's the epilogue, is it? And you've got Shazam and Darkseid, and then it's titled A Beginning. So I mean, is this their next project together? Are they going to do this with several different characters, like this kind of thing where they're jumping between worlds?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've got like a whole new sort of sandbox to play with now. I mean, I take it none of this is part of the regular multiverse that kind of Grant Morrison established a few years back. The updated 52.
I don't know, but yeah, I'd be interested. Well, because there's not really another. Oh no, there is another issue, isn't there? But it's supposedly not linked to the story arc that is just finished. So I was a bit confused. So I don't know whether maybe this is what's going to be explored in the next issue, or if this is like a spin-off for another series or their next project kind of thing. I'm not really sure, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Well, I definitely enjoyed it, and I'm definitely sad to see it go. Yeah, I loved this little run. I mean, kudos to the creative team.
Yeah,
what minds to come up with this story arc, because I mean, I remember initially reading the first issue and it blew my mind, and to be at the end of it, and it was a real tour de force, I felt.
Yeah, Yeah, it was definitely a unique series, and it's unlike anything I've ever read before. So hats off to them. So I'd happily see them sort of take on a similar thing. I'd like to see them do the same kind of thing, but with different characters, and see what kind of different worlds they can explore through there. But yeah, sad to see it go, but it seemed rather abrupt to finish it off so soon. I thought it was going to be quite a longer run, which maybe it was cut short. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, maybe
a little bit abrupt at the end.
Yeah.
So we'll stick with the Batman Superman theme, and we'll go to the 2021 annual. Did you read this one?
I didn't get a chance to read this one. No, this one slipped between the net.
There's so much to talk about in this one. This one was, I think this is my favorite of the whole Batman Superman story arc that Gina and Yang's done, because it was quite a lot of work, though, I thought, because this one's got a lot of different people working on it. Obviously, Gina and Yang's the writer for both of, it's kind of split into two separate issues, or it feels like two separate issues, and you've got one team working on one half and the other team working on the other. So the one focuses on Superman and the other focuses on Batman.
Nice.
And they're also broken down with separate covers as well. So there's four covers in total. So there's two by Brian Hitch and then two by Francesco Francavilla, I think his name is. And they're both exactly the same, but then they have the opposite characters.
Lovely.
So, yeah, it's really nice. So you've got like Superman hovering above Gotham and Batman above Metropolis and stuff like that, because they obviously switch worlds because their skills are better suited to the opposites.
Perfect. I love that dichotomy. I really do.
Yeah, it was good. So both halves of the issue are written by Gino and Yang, like I said, and the Superman half of it has colors, artwork and colors by Francesco Francavilla, who also did the cover, and then the other half, which is the Batman side, has artwork by Paul Pelletier and inks by Mick Gray and colors from Hi-Fi. So there's quite a lot of people working on the one book, and it is quite I know it's an annual and you expect it to be a bigger issue, but it does feel like two completely separate issues, which is it's quite good. So we'll start with the Superman story, which I enjoy both stories, to be honest, but this one I particularly like the artwork. The artwork was kind of like vibrant, kind of rough around the edges, but it worked with the story and it works with Gotham and the characters that are introduced in this one. So it kind of reminds me of like a Tim Burton Halloween vibe. And it reminds me like the effects and colors from the films like Batman 89 and Batman and Robin. It's that kind of vibrant, which is quite cool. So Superman takes on Warden Luthor, who is running experiments on people and basically taking over their minds to control them. And we see a lot of Batman rogues take on Superman, including Poison Ivy. I think Man-Bat is one of them, and Two-Face, which I really liked. So it was quite nice to see Superman mixed with those villains, because how often do you see Superman take on Poison Ivy and stuff like that? So yeah, I was quite surprised to see how effective their powers were against him, because I thought they had no chance whatsoever, especially Two-Face, because he hasn't really got a power set. So yeah, I was quite surprised to see how effective they were. But Superman manages to get away from them, but only just, and then he finds the true target, which is the Omni battery, and that's basically what's powering the testing that Luthor's doing on all these people. So he tries to strike straight at it to stop it there and then. But then as he gets closer, he hears that it's actually an innocent person that's been taken over by Lex Luthor, or Warden Luthor. So obviously he's a little bit conflicted. He didn't realize that it was a person. He thought it was an object. So he's obviously a bit more conflicted about destroying it. So yeah, there's the heartbreaking moment where Superman's about to strike it, and Jones, who's the person that's been taken over, he literally just says, "Help me," which is quite sad. And then Luthor ends up getting the better of him, because he's got this wager now. Luthor attacks Superman, and so do all the other Batman rogues, and he pretty much barely makes it out of there alive, which they're pretty effective. But luckily Spider Lady and her crew stepped in and dragged him out, and he definitely wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for them. I didn't notice this in the other issues where she's been introduced, but Bibbo is part of her crew, which I really liked.
Yes.
But I don't. Was he in the other issues?
I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah.
I just probably didn't make the connection, but yeah. So I like that he's part of the crew. But then you've got this like weird moment between Superman and Spider Lady, which I thought. I know she's Lois Lane, so she's the Lois Lane of this world, who has lost everything as well. So obviously, she's lost Clark, she's lost Jimmy, she lost the Daily Planet, and pretty much the entire city. But Superman keeps making these comments like he was hoping that he'd bump into her again, and that they've got a connection because they've both lost things in their lives, which is understandable. But because he's got a Lois on his own world, it just feels weird to see him kind of flirting with another Lois, even though it's Lois, but it's not Lois. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, cool.
It just feels like he's kind of cheating on Lois with Lois. Well, it could be worse. It could be somebody else.
Yeah.
But further on in the story, they have like a few more moments and they share a kiss. And he then takes her back to this headquarters that he's supposedly built in the middle of the two different worlds so that he can see her again, which is weird. And I mean, if I was the Lois Lane of his world and I found that out, I would be pissed. But I don't know, it just didn't quite sit right for me. It just felt a bit weird.
Well, exactly. You got a secret apartment you're taking this woman to now?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, back to the story itself. So among the people that are with Spider Lady is a mother and son who turn out to be the family of the man that's been taken over by the Omni battery, which was quite nice. Jones. So they kind of, I don't know, it was just a really nice touch and added more reason for Superman to try and get through to him rather than sort of taking it down, which he wouldn't do anyway, because that's not how he rolls. But he takes the family then to try and get through to him, which after a bit of a mental battle with the battery and sort of the son and the mother talking to him, it works, and he and Superman team up to take down Warden Luther, which was quite nice. And then that brings us back to the moment where he takes the Spider Lady to his headquarters that he's created. Even though I don't particularly like that moment, I like how it's been done, and it perfectly brings together the two separate stories, because it's kind of, you remember in the first issue of Batman Superman where you've got the two separate film line
I loved it.
What are they called? The
film reel.
Yeah, film reels, and then it kind of turns into one towards the end. It's kind of like that, and you kind of have to turn the comic around to keep reading it, which is quite fun, but it can be hard to read. But it's sort of set in a spiral, and I just thought it was really clever because it's two different art teams as well. The stories look completely separate, so you can tell in the spiral which is which, but it's just a nice way of bringing it together, I thought. So I'll go on to the Batman side of the issue, which was just crazy. So I really like the artwork because it was quite similar to Ivan Rice's artwork, or it seemed similar, so it was easier for me to connect the two together as being part of the same series. So in this one, Bizarro Two-Face, who was also Bruce Wayne, who was previously introduced in one of the prior issues, he escapes Blackgate Penitentiary and sets his sights on attacking Martha, who's in an asylum. So Batman's sent there because he knows how these people think, and he can get into their heads quite easily. And also the villain is Bruce Wayne, so he's got an extra knowledge of how he thinks.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's just really, it's just, that's what I mean, it's so unique. Like, it's just, I don't know how.
So inventive.
I don't know how they thought of this, because it's just, I would never think of anything like this.
Does this issue take place after the main series has ended?
I don't know. It could be after, or it could be like going back a little bit, because it doesn't necessarily reference anything that's happened in the final issue, but it could be after. So Batman kind of goes undercover as a guard to protect Martha. Now it's not actually revealed that it's Batman until stuff starts to go down, but I did think, so when you see the guard, like, he's too hench to be a guard like that, and he's got like a really bad mustache, which is just, it's a terrible, it's just a terrible disguise on Batman's part. It's like the obvious thing to do, just put a mustache on and think that no one knows who you are. But when he does end up changing to Batman, everyone sees who he is, which I thought was quite funny. But it's also not like Batman. Like, he would have had a plan for if he was to have to change in such a short amount of time. Like, he wouldn't just be like, oh, me, and then turn into his. And also, where was he hiding the mask? Because he's there with like sunglasses and a mustache on. And I'm like, Anyway, but then. Yeah, so Robin comes riding on Bizarro Two-Face because he's trying to sort of slow him down, but the size difference between the two is it's not going to happen. So that's the distraction, and that's why he sort of has to change so quickly, I guess. But it must have been sort of nice for him because on his world, his mother's obviously not there.
Of course.
And even though this woman's from another world, it's probably nice because they kind of spend a little bit of time together before stuff starts to happen. So yeah, I thought that was quite nice, and that's probably why Batman is better suited skill-wise for this, because he's kind of got an emotional attachment to the target, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
So Bizarro Two-Face gets away, and Batman and Robin pursue, and this part really made me laugh because, well, do you know what, I could see Batman sitting in a sidecar all day because it just made me laugh. It's kind of like Robin's riding on the motorcycle part and kind of hunched in the little sidecar, which was quite funny. And they're not the only ones that were in pursuit. So you got Jim Gordon and the rest of the police as well. So this moment kind of goes to show how different this Jim Gordon is to the Jim Gordon that he's used to. So this Jim Gordon doesn't take the time to understand who he's dealing with or what's going to happen like what consequences are going to happen. So he just fires at will, and Batman's like throwing batarangs at the bullets to stop him from sort of aggravating him more, which was quite cool. But even sort of Batman understood the kind of person that this Jim Gordon was, and he kind of knew that was going to happen, and that's kind of explained in the narration, which was quite nice. And he sort of clearly takes the time to analyze and fully understand everyone that he encounters, even if it's just going to be like he's obviously not going to stay in this world, he's just there to help. So that was quite cool. But Bizarro Two-Face gets away, and Batman has to try and figure out his next steps, and because he's a perfect mix of the two villains, he knows just where to find him and how to get through to him as well. So Bizarro Two-Face finds Martha and can't figure out whether he wants to kill her or keep her alive because he's indecisive. So Batman introduces the coin flip to him, which was a nice touch. So bringing parts of the character, like, because he's half sort of Two-Face, isn't he? So it lands on the X, which means kill her. And then I was a little bit shook because Batman's like, yeah, fine, kill her then. Like, just it's fine. But then I realized that it's also Bizarro, so it's the opposite. So it's one of those ones where it's just really clever, like the way that it's a perfect mix of the two villains, and it just keeps you guessing because you don't know when the other villain is going to kick in. So with all the opposite stuff, I was thinking, you can't kill her. But obviously, that's not what he meant, which I just thought was really clever. And then right at the end, there's a huge reveal, which this is going to spoil the whole issue for you, Ashley. Like, well, it's pretty much spoil everything anyway. But now, before, I swear Alfred was Bane in the previous issues.
Yes,
that's right, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah.
But this time round, he isn't Bane. He's Doomsday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Batman and Robin are pretty much chased back to the headquarters where Superman is with Spider Lady.
Yeah.
And they get there just in time because they're being chased by Alfred, who is Doomsday. So I don't know. That seems like a big reveal to not. Yeah. This is obviously the last that we're going to see of this creative team working on the title. So I don't know. I hope they kind of carry on with that because that's just a big introduction.
The way you're explaining it definitely sounds to me like a lot was perhaps left on the cutting board, and there should have been a lot more to this. Yeah. It sounds awesome.
Yeah, like there's just so much that they could do, but I don't know if Alfred's like kind of experimenting with all these different villains, or whether
could be maybe
that it was planned for him to be Doomsday to begin with and it was changed, or I don't know what the deal is there, but it's interesting. And I just like how they mix the characters from both sort of obviously the Batman world and the Superman world, like Alfred means obviously a lot to Batman, and he's a Superman villain, which I thought was quite good. But yeah, I really enjoyed this issue again, and it was nice to sort of delve back into that world with those characters, because it's happened over such a short amount of issues, I guess. It seems like all these things have been introduced, but there's so much more that you can do with them, and so many more stories that you can tell. So I was kind of glad that they went and sort of elaborated on one of them at least.
It's a shame they couldn't really do what they're doing with Tom Taylor at the moment, because I mean, obviously we're going to get this new Game of Thrones-esque world that he's going to be playing with. It's a shame this creative team can't take this off in perhaps another direction, you know? Because I mean, there's got to be a fan base for it. I mean, I'm sure we pick these titles up, and it doesn't even have to go for long. It could be a limited series, or perhaps just a series of maybe one shots or 4-issue issues.
That's it, yeah. I'd be happy to explore it more, because I've enjoyed all the different things. Like they're so different as well. Like you've got these two worlds, then you've got the Western world, like you were talking about before, and there's loads. They've introduced loads of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think we better leave it there, because we've been going for quite a while.
Well, time always flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about Superman comics for hours, but sadly, I have a baby to go back to. I say sadly, I'm happy, really. Well, first of all, a huge thank you to our Patreons, Dave Owen and David Beasley, for supporting us. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next time for episode 20. Thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to this episode and previous episodes in the podcast if you have done so. Remember, if you're enjoying the show so far, please do subscribe, share the podcast with a friend, and most importantly, leave us a review. It's those reviews that really help with our visibility and success, and it only takes you a few moments to leave one. As well as that, if you want to find out more about us, head over to our website www.theaspiringkryptonian.com, and if you want to follow us individually on social media, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube, so I'll drop those links in the episode description so you can get to know us a little bit better. A very quick shout out to some other very good Superman related podcasts and accounts that we love. The Last Sons of Krypton podcast, the Krypton Report podcast, and Adam Talking Superman over on Twitter. They have some really great Superman-centric discussions and are always dropping great Superman knowledge, so if you are looking for something similar to our show and our account, please be sure to check them out.